Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brandon Mayer with Implementation Specialists. We are thrilled that you're able to join our webinar here today with Nodus on improving your payment collection process. Before I hand it over to Fawaz and Callie with Nodus Technologies, I just wanted to let you know that today's webinar is being recorded. So if you ever want to refer back to it or share it with any colleagues, we certainly encourage that. We will also be monitoring the questions and chat window. So if you're able or have any questions throughout the way, please don't hesitate to put those in there and we'll make sure that we get those either addressed on our webinar here today, or we'll follow up with you afterwards. So yeah, we have our special presenters here, Nodus Technologies, returning partners here at our sponsors, excuse me, at our GPUC event next week. We're thrilled to have them here. Excited for them to showcase their solutions and how those can help. Fawaz, I will hand it right over to you, and you can certainly dive a lot deeper on some of the areas that you'll be covering and showing today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Brandon, for giving us an opportunity to speak. My name is Fawaz Hussain. I'm with Nodus Technologies. And as you heard, Brandon, we are implementation specialist partner, and we will be at their event next week. So those of you who are planning to join, we would love to meet you in person as well. Today's presentation is regarding improving your payment collection processes inside of Great Plains. I will talk in terms of Dynamics GP, although the applications that we have designed and as a company, we serve all Dynamics platforms, all the Microsoft Dynamics platforms, including the latest Business Central one and all their cloud offerings. But for today, I'm going to focus mostly on the GP side. Um, this presentation is an overview of one of our payment application that we have designed for Great Plains, which helps you streamline and automate your receivables process. Uh, we will not go in an in-depth demo of this application, but after this presentation, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, and you can connect with your rep at the implementation specialist group, and they'll be more than happy to connect you with us, so we can talk to you about your specific requirements. So let's get started. Today's agenda, we will talk about AR automation. We're going to touch a couple of important things. Number one, we're going to talk about PCI compliance and why is it so important. So that's essentially where we will touch security and PCI regulations. After that, we will look into an AR process. What is a typical AR process? How does it look like, and how can you automate and streamline those processes? And then after that, we will show you a demonstration of our application that we have designed, which helps you not only secure your payments and receivable process, but also it helps you automate those processes. So let's look into accounts receivables. Accounts receivable, AR, is a heartline of any business. There is a saying that I like to mention during this time. People say in order to make money, you have to spend money, but people don't realize that how much money we spend in order to collect our money or collect the payments from our customers. Um, Managing your accounts receivables, managing your incoming revenue is a key component of that, collecting payments from your customers. And then after that, making sure that all your accounting systems, all your documents are properly reflected. So if you have a customer who owes, you collect payment from your customer, and then to properly reflect that in your accounting system and to offset their balances. That's essentially part of your accounts receivable cycle. Um, we will look into a little bit more details on how those processes look like in a traditional world and how that process can be streamlined by implementing an application that automates accounts receivables. Um, but before we start, so that's essentially, we're going to be talking mostly about accounts receivables today. That's the area our specialty is in, and we will be focusing on that. So before we talk a little bit more about accounts receivable, I'm going to start off with security. Security is a very big concern these days. Is something very important to all of us, and as the number of data breach has been growing across the United States, companies and merchants and businesses are becoming more and more careful and more concerned about protecting themselves. There is a there is a myth or a misunderstanding. A lot of merchants don't realize is that when it comes to securing your payments, your customers' payment information, it is 100% your responsibility as a merchant. So I'm going to use the term merchant during my presentation. A merchant is defined as a business that's accepting credit card payments or payments, not just credit card payments from their customers. So if you work in an organization and if you take payments from your customers or if you accept payments from your customers, you are a merchant. So now when it comes to PCI compliance and when it comes to security, as a merchant, it is your responsibility to protect your customers' credit card data. We will talk about PCI compliance and what role PCI plays, but a lot of organizations also have there's a misconception out there that PCI compliance only applies to large organizations such as Walmart or Target or Amazon. The fact is that as long as you're taking credit card payments from your customers, PCI compliance applies to you. But security is becoming, as I mentioned, is becoming a bigger concern now because every other day in news we hear about an incident or an event where a company becomes a victim of data breach where they lose their customers' sensitive information. And that sensitive information can not only be payment information, it could be anything. It could be their address, their personal information, sometimes social security numbers, uh, and things of that nature. So it is becoming more and more area of concern for businesses to make sure that they are protecting themselves by, and they're trying to improve or in place policies which will eliminate the exposure of sensitive data to their staff and to their servers, which entails or which basically leads into having more secure systems. Now, why is it so important for you to focus on the security side? Obviously, besides the PCI compliance mandatory requirements, it's also the cost that's associated with it. There was a study that was done, which essentially shows that for a small business, and our average cost for a small business to recuperate from a data breach is $36,000. But for a medium to large size business, that cost can significantly grow into millions of dollars. Um, so it's a big big dent on your financials if you accidentally became victim of a data breach. But the worst part of that is also on that goes to customer loyalty. The same study shows that if you become a victim of data breach, the chances are that the customer or there's a chance that a group of customers or a large number of your customers will decide to terminate relationship with you. And that's something that we can all relate to. We conduct business with different organizations, and if we hear that, hey, this company that I'm using, maybe if it's my cable provider or it could be anyone, if we hear in news that, okay, well, this company became a victim of data breach, we will think twice before keeping our credit card information on file with them. So these are some of the areas that we need to be careful of when it comes to data breach and when it comes to security. PCI compliance is something that's becoming stronger day by day. Uh, in old days, being PCI compliant was more of a best practice, or it could be a more of a recommended solution. But now it has become a mandatory requirement. Um, PCI compliance, and as I mentioned earlier, there is a misconception out there where most merchants believe that PCI compliance only applies to large enterprise type of businesses. But the fact is that PCI compliance applies to everyone, to any business, any merchant, as long as you take payments from your customers. And in this, for PCI compliance today is for credit cards. But as long as you take credit card payments from your customers, you have to be PCI compliant. So what exactly is PCI compliant, right? So PCI stands for Payment Card Industry, and PCI compliance is essentially a set of rules and regulations that is set forth for merchants, for businesses to follow when they take payments from their customers. So one of the easiest way of understanding what PCI compliance is think of this as Department of Motor Vehicles, or think of this as like, traffic laws, right? So DMV, or Department of Motor Vehicles, have traffic laws, that those are like speed limits or stop signs, or traffic signals, traffic lights. As long as a driver, as long as you're following these rules and regulations, you're significantly reducing the chance of getting into an accident. That's exactly how PCI compliance works. PCI compliance in this case is that governing body that puts forward sets of rules and regulations that businesses should follow. And as long as you are following these rules and regulations, you're significantly reducing the chance of you getting into an accident. And in this case, an accident is a data breach. Obviously, just because you're PCI compliant doesn't mean that you're 100% accident proof, but it does reduce the chances of getting into an accident significantly low. And PCI compliance applies to not just merchants, but it also applies to software companies out there that makes application which processes payments. So we, such as, for example, Nodus Technologies, we are also a software company that make a payment application which allows you to process payments, which I'm going to demonstrate today. So even as a software vendor, we have to make sure that we follow their rules and regulations. And their rules and regulations are around like, how are we developing the security behind the scene? How are we preparing the application? Is it secured? Is it not? Are there any security loopholes and whatnot? So once we write an application, when we create an application, we have to send it over to the PCI Security Council to get it tested and audited. And once it pass its test and certification, that's essentially when we can roll it out to the market. So there's a very good website called PCISecurityStandards.org. I have listed on the screen over here. Please, I would highly recommend taking a note of that. You can visit this website. You can learn a lot about PCI compliance, the world of PCI, what is happening, and essentially like any new data breach, you can read about that over there too. And also they share like best tips and tricks on what can you do to make sure that you're protected. So again, PCI compliance is important, and everything that I'm going to talk about will be in line with security, and every application that we offer here, including the one that I'm going to demonstrate today, it is a PCI certified solution. So that was on the security side. Now let's talk about the AR process. And after that, I'm going to show you that as a GP user, what options do you have to protect yourselves from data breach, to be PCI compliant, and also to implement an automation when it comes to your accounts receivables. So let's look into a typical AR process. So what we have done over here is we have created a very simple workflow, a high-level workflow of showing you what a typical AR process looks like. And then we're going to show you that how does it look like once it's automated. So let's look at what we call an AR circle. You have an accounting system. And in this case, again, we're going to assume that accounting system is Microsoft Dynamics Great Plains. You create an invoice in GP, and then you will post that invoice to the customers. um, uh, record. So this way, that invoice is shown on the customer balance. After that, you will mail that invoice to a customer or email it to the customer. Some customers still have paper mail preference, but either way, once you transmit or distribute that email to your customer, after that, you send reminders to the customers to make a payment. Then once finally you get a hold of customer, or the customer gets a hold of you, they will you will process that payment, probably through a virtual terminal or maybe through a desktop device that you have, like a keypad terminal where you can enter a credit card number. Once that payment is processed, then you're going to send a confirmation to the customer, letting them know that, hey, the payment has been processed. And then after that, you will finally apply that payment into your accounting system. So basically, you will go back to GP, and in GP's case, you will create a cash receipt and you will apply it to that corresponding invoice. So this way, that balance is offset, right? So now the balance has been, it shows in your accounting system that the payment has been paid. This is what a typical process looks like. And some of you who work closely with the accounting team, you can probably relate to it. You can probably, see this probably sounds familiar to you. What With this process right here, if you were to implement an AR automation tool, like such as online bill pay system, which I'm going to show you, now everything that I have highlighted gray can be eliminated. So all of these steps can be automated by an online payment portal, the application that I'm talking about, such as ePay Advantage. So ePay Advantage is our online bill pay system, our AR automation tool that we have designed for Microsoft Dynamics GP, which essentially helps you automate all this process. Because what it does is it will deliver the invoices to your customers. It will send automatic reminders. Now you're enabling customers themselves to go and make payments on their own. So this way they don't have to wait for your business hours to call you so they can make a payment. So customers can make payment at their leisure. The payments are automatically processed, and the system will automatically send customers confirmations on that processed payments, and it will automatically apply or integrate that payment back to GP, and it will apply it to the corresponding invoice or invoices if there's more than one invoice. So this whole process is gets streamlined and can be all automated by implementing such as ePay Advantage. Now, self-service customer portals have been very, very popular. Everyone who's on this webinar or who's listening to this webinar can relate to it, that each one of us use an online bill payment to make payments of our own, such as our cell phone bills, our utility bills, our cable bill, for example. We pay. We expect that we expect these providers, such as our cell phone carrier or our utility companies, we expect them to have a payment portal so we can go make payments on our own, or perhaps even sign up for automatic payments. So this way we don't have to make a payment every month. It can be automated. Likewise, our customers have same requirements, or they desire the same. They want us to provide them a self-sufficient or a self-service payment portal. So this way they can make payments on their own, or perhaps even sign up for automatic payments. So this way they don't have to, call you or write you a check. There are a few things that as a company that we are careful of when it comes to providing good customer service to our customers, and at the same time providing a convenience to our customers. The most important part, so we did a study which essentially shows us that there was a white paper that we did which shows us that if you implement a self-service portal, you are most likely to receive payments from your customers on time. There's a metric that most accounting departments follow. Is called DSO, days sales outstanding. Basically, what that metric is, that it shows you how long it takes you to collect payments from your customers. So the smaller the DSO, the better your department is doing. So that's how most controllers or most executives manage or evaluate an accounting department, by seeing how low their DSO is. So it's one of the KPIs. So by implementing a self-service portal, you significantly reduce that number, that day sales outstanding, because now your customers can make payments on their own. They can essentially, they don't have to write you a check. They don't have to call you during your business time. They can, at nights, weekends, whenever they're convenient, during their downtime at work, they can log into a portal and make payment. Same study also shows that customers who tend to be enrolled in a some sort of online payment portal or some sort of an automatic payments with you are less likely to leave you. Um, Again, something that we can all relate to. When we sign up for automatic payments, is a convenience. We just continue to do business with that organization. And also, like the third part was like a little fun fact that we also discovered during the study, is that those of your customers, the customers who pay online, they tend to make more, they tend to buy more services or more products with you. So basically they tend to conduct more business with you. So indirectly, setting up a easy method way, easy convenient way for customers, or providing customers an easy way to make payments, have also resulted in increased sales. So that's essentially basically giving you a high level on security and also AR automation. Now what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time, and I'm going to switch my screen, and I'm going to show you what our ePay Advantage product looks like. So ePay Advantage is essentially our online bill pay portal, which I'm going to share on my screen right now. So what you see on the screen is a login page for ePay. So ePay is the online bill pay portal that we have designed. In this case, we're going to show integration into GP. And what ePay does, it basically allows you to, everything that we talked about, it allows you to secure, and it allows you to automate your receivable processes. So let me explain you how it works, and then I'll show it to you. So let's say you have an invoice in GP. And by the way, the invoice doesn't have to originate in GP. It could be like you could be using a third-party invoice writer or a third-party billing system. That's all okay. In fact, if you use Key to Act, like the Wensoft tool, we support that as well, which I'm going to show you as well. So let's say you have an invoice in GP. The moment that invoice is posted, immediately that invoice will be available on the portal. And at the same time, this application sends an email notification letting the customer know about their invoice. At that point, customers can log in, they can view that invoice, they can make a payment. They can even make a payment without logging into a portal. But we'll talk about that as well. But the point is that customers can view that invoice, they can download it, they can print it, and they can make a payment. You can allow them to pay by credit cards, or you can allow them to pay by checks. Yes, all of our applications, even this solution, supports check processing as well as credit card processing. Upon successful process, our application will integrate that payment back to GP. It will create a cash receipt, and it will apply it to the corresponding invoice or invoices if there's more than one invoice. So that whole process happens in a very seamless and an integrated manner. So let's look at that. So what you see on the screen right now is a login page for ePay. Just want to make a couple quick notes on this before I start showing you, before I log in. This application is, it comes in two variances. There's an on-prem solution which you can install on your own servers. This way, it will give you a little bit more control on to modify and to customize the look and feel. And then there's a cloud version of this available as well. So if you don't want to host an application on your own server, if you want to use a full cloud version, you can use that as well. I am showing you the on-prem version of the application today. Um, you will, for this version of the application, you will have full access to all the style sheets and all the HTML code behind the scene. So you can modify the look and feel of this as you go. What you're looking at on the screen right now, this is how it comes out of the box. So please ignore the look and feel, because all the cosmetic changes like the colors and the branding and all that, you can rebrand this according to your website or your branding requirements. So one example that I give is, so let's say if you have a cell phone service, and hypothetically speaking, let's assume that you're on T-Mobile. When you go to T-Mobile.com, that's a company website. But when you log in using your login credentials, it takes you to some bill pay portal out there. But as a user, you feel like you have a seamless experience because you feel like that bill pay portal belongs to T-Mobile.com. So you can technically you can give your customers a similar experience when somebody who comes to your website, when they log in, it takes them to a bill pay portal, but it looks like it's part of your website. So again, please ignore the look and feel of this. This is essentially how it's delivered out of the box. Um, I'm going to log in as a customer. When I log in as a customer, it takes me to a list of my outstanding invoices. So these are all the invoices that are in GP that are outstanding. So this is reading all of this data directly from GP, so I can see what outstanding invoices we have. I can drill down into any of this invoice to see the details. So like, for example, if I want to click on this invoice right here, the first one, it can actually drill down and it can see what the details is, and you can download a PDF or you can print this invoice as well. Again, this view right here, this is essentially what we call like a dynamically generated view. So it's basically pulling the data directly from the invoice table in GP. But if you want, it can display like a PDF invoice too. So let's say if you're using a third-party invoice writer like Crystal Reports or maybe even SSRS Reports, then what happens is you can map those PDFs here. So as a customer, when I click on the invoice, it will display the exact same PDF. Another note over here is that we do support multiple currencies. So as you can see, the first one is a Canadian dollar invoice, but then you can also pay US dollar invoices too. So we support multiple currencies as well. This shows you list of outstanding invoices, but you can also see all your old invoices, like historical invoices. You can drill down on this invoice and you can see that, hey, this was the invoice, it was on this date, this was the payment that was made on this invoice. So essentially you can see all the drill down details of this invoice as well. I'm gonna, and also it shows you payment history too. And all of this data is coming directly from GP. So these payments are not necessarily the payments that were made on the portal. Any payment that's recorded in GP under the customer's account, it will be displayed over here. You can also show customers like credit. If they have any credit on file, it brings credit from GP as well. And furthermore, you can even allow customers to apply that credit towards their outstanding balance. Um, Another note here is that for those of you who use Vensoft's Key to Act solution, you can actually display Key to Act invoices over here as well. So when they click on it, they will see basically details from the Key to Act database, which I will show you in a little bit. So for this example, I'm just going to go ahead and make a payment. You can allow people to select multiple invoices. You can also allow them to make partial payments. So for example, I can pay $100 on this invoice and I can pay like maybe $75 on this invoice. You don't have to allow them to pay short pay. It's entirely up to you, but this is just a feature that's available. Plus, you can also take prepayments. Prepayments are like deposits. So it's essentially an invoice that's not tied to an invoice. From accounting perspective, it basically creates an unapplied cash receipt for you in GP. So for this example, I'm going to make $175 payment. When I hit next, it takes me to my review and payment page where I can see one more time what am I paying, what my total is, and I can also see my payment options. So our application allows you to store payment information on file. So this way your customers don't have to type in every time they make payment, and even you. So basically you can process payments on behalf of customers as well. You can process payments through the portal, as well as you can process payments through GP. And if you have a customer's credit card on file, this way you can you don't have to type it in again, and you can just use that credit card number. Um, in either way, whether you use an on-prem deployment or even inside of GP, the credit card wallet is not is will never be on your servers. The credit card data, this wallet will sits in our private cloud. It's called PayFabric, and PayFabric is essentially what's responsible for storing and processing the payment data for you. So this way, no matter where you process the payment from, even if you process inside of GP, even if you process from the portal, or even if you allow your customers to make payments, you will never be exposed, or your servers will never be exposed to your customers' credit card data. And I will show you a little bit more about this in a second as well. So I can choose credit card that's on file. I can choose a check like an ACH that's on file, or I can even add a new payment method like a new credit card number or like a new ACH number if I want. So for this example, I'm just going to use a credit card that's on file. And you can also add, you can enforce customers to add their CVV2 code. But I have that disabled because it's my demo environment, but you can make it mandatory. You can allow people to pay now. If you like, you can also enable an option where they can schedule future payments. So this way they can schedule a future date for payment to process, and then on that date, the system will automatically process that payment. I'm just going to go ahead and pay now. And then we also have added this feature where if you like, you can put your legal terms and conditions over here, like your legal verbiage. And whatever you write over here, you can basically make it mandatory for your customers to read and accept your terms and conditions before they submit a payment. So in this example, I'm going to go ahead and make a payment, $175 broken to 2 invoices, and let's see what happens. When I submit this payment, it will process this payment in real time, and it will tell me right away if the payment went through or not. So if this is a decline, if the credit card doesn't go through, it will immediately prompt a customer to enter a new credit card number. So this way you don't have to chase any declined payments. Customer will be notified and they'll be prompted to enter a new payment information. Now, in this case, a payment went through, so I got an approval message. A copy of this approval message has already been emailed to the customer, and we display like a friendly note over here, which shows which email address it went to, whichever one was on file. But then they can always print this, and they can always come back to payment history, and they can retrieve it later too. But most importantly, what happened right now is the system has not only processed this payment, but it has already integrated this payment into GP and has applied to these invoices for the corresponding amounts. So let's look at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this payment number 3493. And again, I'm only doing this for demonstration purpose, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this payment number, and I'm going to go to GP, and I'm going to go to cash receipts, and I will paste that number over here, and see it came in right away for 175. So immediately once you process the payment and is successfully processed, that payment will be reflected into GP. And not only that it came in right away, if you look at under the apply button right here, you will see that this payment has been applied to the right invoices for right amount. So everything is mapped out uh, throughout the day. As your customers are making payments, these payments will be integrated into GP and will be applied to the right invoices for the right amount. So this way you don't have to key in anything manually. You don't have to process anything manually. We save everything in a batch for you. And by default, it's a daily batch. So every day a new batch is created. A lot of those settings you can change and update, but by default it's a daily batch. And so this way, towards the end of the day, you can review the batch and post it however you like to, like whatever your posting procedures are. But as far as the payment is concerned, payment is completed and has been applied to the invoice. So this was an example of how a customer goes in and make a payment. This portal has a lot of other functionalities as well. Like you can even do like an auto pay type of functionality where, for your cell phone bill, for example, you can keep a credit card on file. So this way, automatically all your bills, all your credit card bills are paid every month. You can do things like that. Plus, you also have an option where you can log in as a customer service rep. So that's somebody from your organization. So as an internal user, I can log in and I can essentially look up any customer that's in the system, and I can make payments on behalf of the customer. So maybe somebody wants to make a payment over the phone. I can just come here, I can type in the customer, I can look at that customer's information. I can see, okay, well, see, this guy has one invoice open. So the total they have is, they also have a credit too on file. So I can see what the total balance is. And just the way a customer makes a payment, as a CSR, I can process a payment on behalf of a customer. And it will behave the same way. It will end up in GP and it will all be applied. Likewise, I can create an auto pay contract for the customer. We also support like installment payments. So if you want to allow somebody to pay in installments, I can create like an installment payment contract. So over the term of the contract, whatever the frequency is, the payments will be processed and will continue to apply to this invoice till the invoice is paid off. And likewise, you can also set up recurring billing. So if you have some sort of a subscription business need, you can create a recurring billing contract where the customers are automatically the invoices are generated and they get applied, the payment gets applied to them in GP. Um, so again, I showed you from the customer side, there's a customer service side as well. And just for those of you who are key to act customers, let me show you quickly what that looks like. So when you log in as a key to act customer, you will essentially be able to see all the key to act invoices. So what you see in front of your screen right now, like for example, JC10014, that's one of their job cost invoices. So when I click on the details, this essentially details are coming from the key to act tables. So very similar to like how I showed you in GP, where we clicked on that invoice because that was a standard SOP invoice. So it was reading the SOP table in GP to pull all the data, but now it's reading the key to act table to pull this data over here. So those of you who use key to act, you can use this system as well. Um, and again, just to show you the exact same portal on a cloud. So I showed you the on-prem version. There's a cloud version as well. We call it PayFabric Receivables because it sits in our PayFabric cloud. Um, that's essentially is exact same system that you can use, which will help you set up a payment portal that's integrated to GP, but it doesn't require any type of server that you need to host. So this is what the cloud one looks like. I can essentially see the invoices, exact same what I showed you from the customer. See, there was one Canadian dollar invoice, and then there's 4 US dollar invoices. And likewise, I can click on this to see the detail of this invoice. So you can essentially do this where all of this data now sits in a cloud, and then you can open this up to your customer so they can go ahead and make a payment from here. Uh, Going very quickly, just to touch on this on the GP side. So inside of GP, when you implement this solution, you will have a component that will sit inside of GP as well called Credit Card Advantage, which essentially will allow you to process and manage payments directly from GP. You can process payments from the receivable, any receivable module of GP, like sales transaction entry, invoice entry, transaction entry, or even cash receipts. So just for the sake of example, I'm going to process a quick cash receipt over here. Sorry, let me go ahead and do this. So let's say if I have a cash receipt over here, I'm going to select customer, select credit card as a method of payment, enter the dollar amount. Now this is GP window. This you all are probably familiar with this. But when I enter the dollar amount, and since I have credit card selected, when I hit tab, it will automatically open up this window called e-transaction entry window. This is basically where Credit Card Advantage kicks in. This is the Nodus Credit Card Advantage window. So this window is essentially an iframe being pulled directly from PayFabric Cloud. So you can see what credit card this customer has, what credit card numbers they have on file. So remember, as a customer, I can go and enter a credit card information on the portal, but then you can see what payment information they have on file, and then you can process the payment on behalf of a customer. So if I want to process payment, I just hit this button. It will basically go in the back. It will process the payment and it will show you your result right away. And even this will automate the in the receipt delivery, so the customer gets a copy of the confirmation. Likewise, there are a lot of other functionalities that comes into Credit Card Advantage. There are a lot of reporting tools, reconciliation tools, which help you manage all your payments. So anything that is processed on a portal will also be managed over here. There are also functionalities where you can send like a hyperlink text message to your customers who collect payment from them. So for example, or even the credit card information. So let's say if your team is talking to a customer and they want this customer to keep a payment information on file, rather than me asking them to read me the credit card number, I can just click on this button that says send wallet link. It will send them a text message where they can, or even a email where they can click on a link, they can enter the credit card number, and essentially it will save in the cloud for you. So this way your team will never be exposed to the customer's credit card data. But I can still see the credit card, the last four digits of the credit card number, so I can recognize it. So this is Visa ending with 111, and I can see the expiration, but that's about it. I will not be able to see the full credit card number for security reasons. So having said that, I'm gonna just to hope you found this useful. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wrap up a couple of things, and then after that we can take question and answers. Um, as a company, Nodus Technologies, we specialize in payment processing for all Dynamics platform, as including the cloud ones such as Dynamics 365. We offer customer payment portals that I showed you. We also offer e-commerce solution, like we have a shopping cart that can be used for B2B and B2C e-commerce need. So if you want, and it basically integrates all the inventory and all the information data from GP over to the shopping cart, so customers can go in, place orders, and then it will essentially submit that order back into GP. We talked about payment hyperlinks, which essentially will allow you to send links to your customers so you can collect payment from them. Portal is great, but a lot of times we get questions where our customers say that, hey, their customers are not, they're like one-off customers, so they may not want to keep a login credential for a portal. So for them, like payment hyperlink is the best. So this way you can just send somebody a link to collect payment from them, like a one-time payment, rather than having them go to a portal and log in. So those comes in very handy for those one-off customers. Then as a company, we also specialize in PCI compliance. We work very closely with the PCI Security Council to make sure that not only we are always up to date with the most recent compliance regulations, but also to make sure that our applications are always up to date with all the PCI certifications. And through our partners, we reach to the Dynamics community, such as you, to get that knowledge out there about PCI, what is happening in the world of PCI, and what options do you have as a Dynamics user to protect yourself and be PCI compliant and to streamline these processes. In a bigger picture, Nodus is a division of EVO Payments. Evo is one of the largest B2B payment processor across United States, but across the globe now. We have United States, US, America, and European presence. So we have payment expertise. We can help you. We have designed our applications to submit the level 2 level 3 data, which is basically additional data that you can submit to the processor, which will essentially help you qualify your transaction to the lowest possible rates. So basically, with our processing relationship, we can essentially help you set a processor. So not just on the application side, we can also help you on the payment processing side. We can help you set a processor with lowest possible rates. And because we have designed the application that sits inside the ERP system, we know exactly where to get the right data from in order to qualify those for those payments to for the lowest possible rates for the level 2, level 3 processing. Overall, we help customers reduce their scope of PCI compliance by implementing these solutions. You can essentially, it makes it very easy for you to be PCI compliant. And then we support both US and international payment gateways. So having said that, I want to thank again Brandon and the team at Implementation Specialist to give us the opportunity to come speak to you. We will be at the Implementation Specialist customer event that is happening next week in Fargo, North Dakota. So we will be over there, and we would love to meet you in person as well if you're attending. So having said that, Brandon, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Fawaz. Very educational, informative. We really appreciate you going through that. So with that, I don't see that any questions are in the questions pane or chat window, which means you probably covered everything perfectly, right, and very thoroughly, and probably answered any questions that may have come up. As I kind of mentioned prior to, we did also record this, so you will be getting a copy of this. So if you would like to rewatch it or share it with any of your colleagues, please do so. We are very excited for our GPUC next week to have Nodus Technologies there. So as Fawaz said, we can certainly connect much more about their solution at that time, or really at any time. So with that, thank you so much for joining this webinar today. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.